Welcome back to IowaWorks. We're here with Cassandra Halls from To the Top and Nick Reddin from Manpower.
Cassandra, in previous shows we've talked about the importance of research when you're doing a job search. What kind of research should you do when you're getting ready for an interview?
The kind of research that you need to do in preparing for an interview is to really research the position that you've applied for and have a good understanding of the skills and abilities that are needed for that position, as well as the skills and abilities that you have within your toolbox and your abilities that lend yourself to that position and will make you successful. It's also really good to understand the employer that you've applied to and understanding their business and what they do on a daily basis, as well as some interesting things like who their competitors are and how they're successful in the market and within the space in which they're conducting their everyday business.
So Cassandra, what should a person take to the interview with them?
I think it's really important to take a portfolio with you. When you take a portfolio, it allows you to take a copy of your resume with you so you know exactly what the employer is looking at as well as to take some notes into the interview with you. Everybody has a tendency to be nervous when they go into an interview, so having some of those key points that maybe you have a tendency to forget as you're going through the process, as well as to document some of those questions that would be good to ask an employer at the close of the interview.
And maybe the both of you could kind of give us some examples of what you think are the proper attire that someone should wear for an interview.
Well, we always tell people is dress like you want the job. You really can't overdress for an opportunity to interview with somebody. You're marketing yourself, and what you're putting on display is kind of your billboard to the employer of how seriously you're taking this opportunity to interview with them.
And another good piece of advice is if you're not quite sure how to dress to the equivalent of the position that is over the person who's interviewing you. So dressing for your boss's boss, if you look at it that way. And even then, going another step, if you're really unsure about what to wear, call the HR department of the company of which you're going in to interview and see what the dress code is like for the company, and then you'll be conducive to the environment.
And Nick, what are some best practices for meeting someone for the first time?
Really what you want to do, you want to have a good handshake, you want to make eye contact, you want to be very respectful, thank them for bringing you in, you want to be able to articulate well the job, and so you need to have had some practice of interviewing with other people, maybe friends of yours, and running through some of these subjects and some of these things that you would say, just so you already have them prepared in your mind so you don't stumble over it when you first get introduced to the interviewer.
No joke to open the conversation, or?
No, that's not always the best way, but sometimes during it you may have time if the time is appropriate, have some humor.
That's all the time that we have left for this segment. When we return, we will be going over some specific questions that may be asked in an interview and give some examples of some proper and appropriate answers when you're going through an interview.
Welcome back. Today we're talking about interviews and interviewing. And right now we're going to look at some clips of good and bad ways to respond to common interview questions. Let's look at this clip.
Judy, I'm really glad you're here today. Why don't we just start by having you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Okay, great. Well, I have been living in this area for a long time. I'm married and I have 3 kids and 4 grandkids who really take a lot of my time. So I'm pretty wrapped up in all of the things that they're doing, and I want to work, but you know I've got some time restraints with what I'm doing with them. I'm also an animal lover. I love dogs. I've got 2 dogs and spend a lot of time with them. Lots of hobbies that keep me busy. I like to do things that I use my hands for, and again, things with my kids. And in fact, there's one of them right now. Excuse me, just a minute. Okay, I'm sorry. What was the question again?
We were just talking about you.
Oh, okay, about what I like to do. Well, I really enjoy the sports that my kids are in and spending a lot of time with my family and just busy doing that. I'm looking for a job that'll work in with that. So, you know, I can be flexible, but I really would like to be able to keep up doing the things that I do at home as well.
Cassandra, what do you think went wrong with that answer?
Well, Liz, obviously Judy took a different focus with her question, and she focused completely on personal aspects rather than sharing with the interviewer what her professional skills are related to the position that she's applied for. Her cell phone, she brought that into the interview with her and then actually responded to it when it went off. The very good piece of advice is to just leave your cell phone in the car. You're not going to want to answer it during your interview. She wasn't really focused on the job. She was talking about all of the other things that she had going on in her life, which made it appear that she was trying to work the job in as opposed to being really serious about the job. And she didn't show her enthusiasm or her passion about what she was really going for in applying for the position.
Well, let's see a better way to answer that same question.
Judy, thank you for being here today. Why don't we just start with you telling me a little bit about yourself?
Well, great. Thanks, Cassie. I appreciate being here. I've got over 20 years experience in administrative and customer service work, very strong background in human resources, and really have done pretty much all aspects of human resources, including recruiting and interviewing, assessment, skills assessment, counseling, training, really everything to do with hiring and termination and human resources. I also, in the last 5 years, have focused on safety and workers' compensation and unemployment. So I have also done a lot of working with employee benefits, a lot of customer service as well along with that, and interacting with customer and building customer relationships and relationships with our associates, because we were an employer of over 300 people. So a lot of experience in working with people on both sides of the employment, both employees and with our clients and customers.
One question that's always tricky to answer is how could you improve on the job? Let's watch an example of how that could be answered.
Tell me one thing that you could have improved about yourself or your skill set that would have made you more successful in your last position.
Okay. In my last position, I was in a sales role, and a lot of the times I would have sales plans, marketing plans that I would lay out, and not all the time did I follow those to a T. That sometimes hurt me. I would get off track a little bit and maybe not be quite as effective in my sales planning as I could be. So I think, if I have those resources available, just sticking with those and making sure that I follow those plans that I lay out would be more beneficial for me.
Nick, why do you think that was a good answer?
Well, Tony did a really good job of being honest, being open, and recognizing that he does have a couple weaknesses, but also pointing out that he has a plan to overcome them and how he enacts that plan, which tells an employer, A, he's a real person, he isn't perfect, and he's focusing on the things that matter, that he's overcoming whatever weaknesses he sees in his own job skills.
So that would be really a good question for someone to practice before they get into the interview, and kind of work through in their mind what are some of their strengths and how they want to bring that into a question where they're asking for things that they can improve.
And it's always really important when you're talking about weaknesses to be able to turn it into a positive. So talking about, even though you may have a quirk in your personality or something that you haven't quite perfected yet, talk about what you've learned from it and how you recognize it and then how you overcome that weakness.
And this is the kind of question that always comes up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty standard.
It is a fairly standard question.
And it's important to see how people react to being able to recognize where their strengths are at. And it's very helpful for a manager if you can be honest in that situation, because then they know how to fit you into the position and what resources that you're going to need to be successful. Because everybody isn't going to be the exact perfect fit for a position. And if they know going into it where you need assistance, then they can provide that to you right from the beginning.
And I really kind of appreciated the fact that Tony was at least honest about it and kind of handling it in an honest way.
Absolutely. That's important to employers, and that's what they want to hear.
And I think it goes back to the point we need to know ourselves. I mean, we need to really think through how we performed on our last job, where we thought we were doing well or didn't, and then also ask for honest feedback from our supervisors. As you move to the next job, ask your past supervisor, what could I have done better to make myself a better employee? We need to take a break right now, and we'll be right back after this.